Welcome back to Mind and Messiah, where we explore theology, church history, and the truths that shape our faith today. In today's video, we are tackling a subject that has divided Christians for centuries: baptism, and especially infant baptism. Was it always the norm in the early church? Was baptism a static and uniform doctrine handed down unchanged from the apostles? Or was there more diversity in how it was practiced? The answer may surprise you. The first thing we need to understand is this: baptism in the early church was not a monolith. It was not practiced in the exact same way across all churches, all families, or even by all church fathers. There were at least three notable variations: delayed baptism of believers, emergency infant baptism, infant dedication without baptism, often tied to catechumenate or future service in the church. This wasn't a deviation, it was part of the lived reality of early Christian community. Now let's explore some historical examples. Even some of the most revered church fathers, born to devout Christian families, were not baptized as infants. Tertullian, writing in the early 3rd century, explicitly advised parents to delay baptism for their children. He says, "Deferment of baptism is more profitable, especially so as regards children." Gregory of Nyssa wasn't baptized until around the age of 30, despite his father being a bishop. In fact, he recommended baptism around age 3 for children unless there was a danger for death. Basil of Caesarea and Gregory of Nyssa, both major theologians, were baptized in their late 20s. Ambrose of Milan, despite being born to Christian parents, was only baptized at age 34 after being appointed bishop. John Chrysostom was baptized as a young man around 20. Jerome, translator of the Latin Vulgate, was baptized at age 19, and Augustine of Hippo, one of the most influential figures in Western theology, was baptized at age 33 by Ambrose, despite his mother Monica being a devout Christian. The pattern is clear. Credo baptism was not rare. It was more common even among those raised in Christian homes. Beyond delay, there was also practice of infant dedication, often enrolling the child into the catechumenate, essentially a preparation phase for baptism. Basil, in Homily 13, spoke to those who had been instructed from infancy but had not yet been baptized. He compared them to children conceived but not yet born. There were even special infant dedications where children were promised to serve the church as lifelong virgins or future clergy without being baptized. A 4th century letter from Pope Siricius to Bishop Himerius of Tarragano, modern Spain, acknowledges such a practice even without surprise or disapproval. Gregory of Nyssa offers a nuanced view. He says, "Should we baptize infants? Absolutely, if there is immediate danger. For it is better to be sanctified without perceiving than to depart unsealed. But as for the rest, I recommend waiting for the 3rd year, where they can hear something of the mystery and respond." So while emergency infant baptism was permitted, standard practice, in his opinion, was to wait until the child could understand and respond, even if not fully. This again points toward a more flexible, situational view of baptism in the early church. The World Council of Churches, in its 1982 Lima Statement on Baptism, Eucharist, and Ministry, acknowledged this historical diversity. It says, "While the possibility that infant baptism was also practiced in the apostolic age cannot be excluded, baptism upon profession of faith is the most clearly attested pattern in the New Testament." That pattern didn't disappear in the early centuries. It persisted along infant baptism, especially in regions like Asia Minor, Cappadocia, and even Rome. Here's the paradox. Protestant traditions like Anglican, Lutheran, and Reformed churches sought to return to the theology of the early church during the Reformation, and yet they institutionalized infant baptism while largely discarding infant dedication and the catechumenate model seen in the first centuries. This may have been due to theological motivations such as original sin or to limited historical sources available at the time. But based on what we know now, it seems inconsistent to ignore the early church's clear precedent. So what can we take away? The early church did not have a single universal model for baptism. Rather than enforcing one model over another, perhaps we should appreciate the diversity of the early church and allow that same wisdom to guide us today. Thanks for watching. If you found this helpful, like, subscribe, and share it with someone wrestling with questions about baptism and early church tradition. See you next time on Mind and Messiah. God bless.